Grandpa's 90th birthday was supposed to be a celebration, not the start of one of the most tense and revealing days of my life. The community hall was full of laughter, the clinking of glasses, and the comforting aroma of roasted lamb and freshly baked bread. My husband and I had arrived early, having flown in the night before to be part of the big day. My mother had called that morning, insisting I come ahead of time to help set up, which was her usual code for managing the chaos she couldn't control. I was in good spirits, happy to see relatives I hadn't seen in years, but something in the air felt just a little off. The head table was set perfectly, with Grandpa sitting in the middle, his eyes bright and his posture proud, greeting each guest warmly. I was halfway through chatting with a cousin when my husband leaned in close to my ear and whispered, "We have to go. Something is very, very wrong." I blinked, stunned, and asked what he meant, but his hand squeezed mine firmly, the look in his eyes sharper than I'd ever seen in public. "Just look at the head table," he murmured, nodding subtly toward Grandpa. I scanned the room and, at first glance, saw nothing strange, just relatives smiling and mingling. But as I paid closer attention, I saw it. People talking to Grandpa with expressions that didn't match their words, smiling but with tight jaws, eyes flickering toward each other in ways that suggested they were in on something I wasn't. Then the front door opened, and in walked Grandpa's lawyer, dressed in a sharp suit, carrying a leather folder under his arm. My mother lit up the second she saw him, crossing the room with an urgency that felt wrong for a party. She guided him toward the kitchen, whispering as they went, her hand on his arm in that overly friendly, fake way she used when she wanted something. My husband's jaw clenched. "I overheard her talking to your brother earlier," he said. "They're trying to get your grandpa to sign something today. I think they're changing his will." My stomach dropped. Grandpa wasn't naive, but his eyesight was terrible, and he trusted family more than he should. If my mother and brother pushed documents under his nose at a moment like this, he might sign without knowing the full scope. My mother had always been calculating when it came to money, but doing something like this on his birthday felt colder than anything I'd seen her attempt. "It's worse," my husband continued. "She mentioned selling the family home, saying it was for everyone's benefit." Memories of summers at that house flooded my mind, playing cards on the porch, hearing the floorboards creak under Grandpa's steps, the smell of his morning coffee filling the kitchen. The thought of it being sold off so my mother could cash out made my skin crawl. Across the room, my brother joined them in the kitchen, his expression smug, like he already knew he'd won something. My husband's grip on my hand tightened again. "We can't let them do this without a fight," he said. "But if we confront them too soon, they'll deny everything. We need proof." I left the table, keeping my movements casual so no one would suspect anything. My husband slipped away toward the hallway that led to the coat room, where the pantry connected directly to the kitchen. We'd already agreed without speaking that he would listen in from there while I acted as a distraction if needed. As soon as I stepped into the kitchen, I was met with a wall of fake warmth. My mother turned toward me with that hostess smile she used like armor, her eyes scanning me like she could measure how much I'd overheard. "Sweetheart, could you get some more bread rolls from the pantry?" she asked, as if I had wandered in for no reason. The lawyer avoided my eyes, and my brother gave me a smirk that made me want to knock it off his face. I moved toward the bread basket, pretending to rummage while I kept my ears open. My mother was talking in a hushed but firm tone, pushing the lawyer to finalize something that would keep things simple. My brother chimed in with, "It's for the best, we don't need this turning into a circus later." The lawyer's voice was low and measured as he said, "If we're going to do this without pushback, it has to be before speeches start. If too many people get wind of it, they'll start asking questions." My stomach twisted. They were going to do it now. While the sound of laughter drifted in from the hall, they were about to strip Grandpa's legacy away behind closed doors. In the pantry, my husband had just enough of the door cracked open to capture the conversation on his phone. His reflection in the glass of the cabinet across from me showed his phone angled perfectly to get both video and audio. I grabbed the bread basket and walked out without saying a word, giving him the signal to meet me in the hallway. When he emerged, he showed me the phone, crisp, clear audio of everything, their voices unmistakable. That gave me some relief, but we still had a problem. If they got to Grandpa before we could act, undoing it would be messy and expensive. I needed to stall them without making it obvious. That's when I remembered something. Grandpa loved telling old fishing stories. He'd perk up at the mention of the one from 1962 where he almost lost the boat trying to reel in a marlin. If I could get him talking, it would hold him in place in front of everyone, and they wouldn't be able to whisk him away without attracting attention. I went back into the main room and leaned toward him with a bright smile. "Grandpa, tell me again about the fishing contest in '62. You know, the one where you swore the fish was as big as the boat." His eyes lit up instantly. Within seconds, his voice boomed across the room as he launched into the story, complete with hand gestures and dramatic pauses. Guests started gathering closer, laughing and prompting him with questions. The kitchen conspirators noticed. My mother emerged from the doorway, her smile frozen in place but her eyes sharp. My brother lingered behind her, clearly frustrated. I kept encouraging Grandpa, asking him questions and drawing out the details. Every minute he stayed there was a minute they couldn't move forward. My husband took advantage of the distraction to slip toward the front entrance, disappearing for a few minutes. When he returned, he wasn't alone, he had Aunt Denise with him. Aunt Denise was the one person in the family who had never been afraid to challenge my mother. She had a sharp tongue, a quick temper, and a strong sense of right and wrong. My husband leaned in, whispered something to her, and showed her the recording. Her face hardened. Without hesitation, she strode toward the kitchen like she owned the place, her heels clicking against the floor in a way that made everyone turn their heads. Aunt Denise didn't bother lowering her voice. She marched straight up to my mother, who was hovering by the kitchen doorway, and said, "What the hell do you think you're doing trying to pull paperwork on his birthday?" The room fell silent in an instant. My mother's smile faltered, and for a second she looked like she might deny everything, but Denise was already holding up my husband's phone. "We've got it all right here," she said, her tone slicing through the air like a knife. My brother stepped forward, his face flushed. "You don't know what you're talking about. It's just some legal housekeeping." "Housekeeping my ass," Denise cut in. "You're railroading a 90-year-old man who can't even read the fine print without a magnifying glass. Do you want me to play this for the whole room?" My mother's hand shot out to grab her arm, but Denise yanked it back. The guests were no longer pretending not to watch. People exchanged glances, some whispering, others outright staring. Grandpa, who had been mid-story, stopped talking and frowned. "What's going on?" he asked loudly, his voice carrying over the murmurs. My mother tried to redirect. "Nothing, Dad. Just a little misunderstanding." "Let's get you a slice of cake, don't you dare," Denise snapped, stepping closer to Grandpa. "They were trying to get you to sign papers to change your will today." Without telling you what it actually said. The color drained from Grandpa's face. His eyes darted from Denise to my mother to my brother. "Is this true?" he demanded. My mother's voice wavered as she said, "It's just, there are things that need to be sorted so everyone's taken care of." "By stealing my house?" Grandpa's voice cracked like a whip, silencing the entire room. The lawyer, who had been lurking in the background, finally stepped forward, looking more uncomfortable by the second. "Mr. Collins, I was under the impression this was all discussed." "Discussed with who?" Grandpa shot back. "Not with me, that's for damn sure." My mother's carefully crafted facade was slipping fast. Her voice rose as she tried to justify herself. "Dad, you don't understand how complicated it will be when you're gone. We're just trying to make things easier, for yourselves," Grandpa interrupted, his voice trembling with anger. "Easier to sell the place out from under everyone and pocket the money." My brother muttered something about it being what's fair, but Grandpa wasn't having it. He reached for his cane, stood up with effort, and pointed toward the door. "Get out. Both of you. If you're going to treat me like I'm already dead, you can leave now." My mother's mouth fell open. "You're kicking us out? On your birthday?" "You damn right I am," he said, slamming the cane down on the floor for emphasis. The room erupted into whispers, some guests openly glaring at my mother and brother as they gathered their things. My husband and I exchanged a look. We had the proof, the confrontation, and now the fallout was in full swing. But I also knew my mother well enough to realize this wouldn't be the end. She wasn't the type to slink away quietly. She would find another way to get what she wanted, and I needed to be ready for it. As she passed me on the way out, her eyes narrowed. "You think you've won," she hissed. "But this isn't over." I didn't flinch. "You're right," I said quietly. "It's not. Because I'm not letting you near him without someone watching ever again." My brother scoffed, muttered something under his breath, and followed her out. The door shut behind them, and for a moment the room felt lighter, like a storm had passed. Grandpa lowered himself back into his chair, looking tired but resolute. "Thank you," he said, his voice softer now. "I don't know what I'd have done if I'd signed whatever they were pushing." Denise squeezed his shoulder. "You don't need to worry about that now. We've got you." I knew she meant it, but in my gut I could already feel the next battle forming. The rest of the evening was quieter, though the air still buzzed with the shock of what had happened. Guests lingered, speaking in low voices, some coming over to offer Grandpa hugs or words of support. I stayed close to him, making sure no one tried to slip him anything or steer him into a private conversation. Denise kept her phone in her hand, the recording queued up and ready, just in case my mother tried to spin the story to anyone still there. After most of the guests left, Grandpa asked me and my husband to sit with him at the kitchen table. His hands, weathered from years of hard work, rested on the surface as he looked between us. "I've been blind to a lot of things," he said slowly. "I thought your mother had my best interests at heart. I see now I was wrong." My husband leaned forward. "She was counting on you trusting her, and she was counting on no one being here to challenge her." Grandpa nodded. "That won't happen again." Then he did something that caught me off guard. He asked me to be his executor and to work with Denise to update his will properly, with a lawyer he trusted from decades back. I could feel the weight of the responsibility, but I agreed without hesitation. The next week, we met with his lawyer, a man in his 70s who knew the family history better than anyone. With the new will, Grandpa made sure the house, his savings, and his small but steady investments would be divided fairly among those he trusted, and that no one could pressure him into changes without a doctor and 2 witnesses verifying he was of sound mind. When my mother found out, she exploded. She called me, furious, accusing me of poisoning Grandpa against her. I didn't bother arguing. I simply sent her the full recording of that night and told her if she pushed me, I'd make it public. The silence on the other end of the line told me she understood the threat. Word about the attempted will change spread quietly through the extended family. My mother's polished reputation took a hit, and my brother's smug confidence seemed to evaporate. They both avoided family gatherings for months. Grandpa, meanwhile, seemed lighter. He started going out more, reconnecting with old friends, and even hosted a small poker night at the house. I stayed vigilant, but I also allowed myself to relax a little, knowing the major damage had been prevented. The best part, though, was watching my mother try to rebuild her image while knowing I could dismantle it with a single audio clip. It wasn't just about revenge anymore, it was about making sure she understood that her manipulations no longer worked on everyone. And if she ever forgot that, I was more than ready to remind her. In the end, the birthday that could have been the day Grandpa lost everything became the day he took back control. And for me, it was the day I stopped being the quiet bystander and became the person who made sure justice, in our small family way, was done.